Hello everyone, and we're just going to continue from where we left off the last session. If you remember, I had painted a whole bunch of, let's see, I'll show you exactly what I did. I had painted a whole bunch of colors to show you how I went about adding on the strokes. Just kind of following the contours of the body and the muscle flow. Okay, so that's where we left off last time. I'm just going to erase that. Go into color, fill object. Okay, I'm going to take RGB off, go into Z add, and we're just going to continue where we left off. We're going to continue refining the forms. So I'm going to use the clay buildup. I'm going to go into B, bring up the brush menu, C, and B, clay buildup brush. And as you can see, I am in X symmetry still. That's simply with X. Okay, by pressing X, you go into X symmetry. The other thing I'd like to do is I'm going to go into the render, preview shadows. I'm going to take off deep shadows. Excuse me. And then brush, under the auto masking, I'm going to put backface mask. Now, when you do the backface mask, this setting only applies to the current brush you're using. So, if you want to have backface mask for another brush, you'd have to actually activate that per brush. Okay. Now, because I did open a project, I should be still in Dynamesh. Let's just double check. Yeah, same settings as before. We're at resolution of 64, just to keep the poly count, the polygons down, and no blur and no project. In fact, none of the other buttons are really on. Okay. So I'm just going to get out of perspective and Shift P, and remember we had the grid. Now this happens sometimes when you open up a project and you had a grid in there. I'm not sure why this happens, but let's see if we can correct it. Now let's go into draw and just dock it to the side here. And let's try snapping it. Ah, there you go. So all I did was press snap to all, and that fixed it. See? And now we have that. And it's a little off. So let's try going in and fixing. Let's go to Move Tool, B, M as in Mary, V as in Vivian, and let's just go a little closer. And let's just bring out some of these forms. So this is why we're keeping it still at a pretty low res, is because we want to be able to manipulate large forms. If it was really high resolution, it would be pretty tricky to use the Move Tool and move big forms, because you're trying to handle millions of polygons. So I'm still at 17,000 polygons. 17 and a half almost. I'm just following. I don't know if I want to be, I don't need to be 100%, but for the sake of just showing you, I never really stick 100% to my reference material. This is gonna, the contours are gonna change once we start sculpting. So that looks pretty good. Okay, let me show you. The bottom is not flat, but I don't care. We're just gonna cut that off later. Those are the kind of things you worry about later on. Okay, I'm not sure I want to touch that. Let's see what happens if I touch it in the front. Again, this is something else I don't really care about. Let's just bring it down though, so we have more. It's better to have more that we can cut off later than to have too little. But let's try to fix this. I mean, I'm just showing you so that if you do want to follow something 100%, you can really be as accurate as you feel like it, And again, one side is not symmetrical, so don't worry if that side doesn't line up. I'm trying to grab the ear, and sometimes you end up grabbing the wrong things. It's really hard to see when it's so translucent. You can kind of see it. Hopefully you guys can see it at home. on your monitor. Excuse me. Okay, so let's just bring the. Okay, that looks pretty good. Well, it's close. Let's just get out of the grid by pressing Shift P. If you look, I'm going to press V right now. Actually, I'm going to go into black. Oh, it's not doing it because it's filled with a color. Let's see if I can do this. Nope. It didn't do it. Doesn't matter. I mean, oops. Okay. What I was going to show you is the silhouette. It's not changing. But what I can do is I can actually just fill it. Watch. Color, fill object. Oh, see? I had the material. You gotta remember to have the RGB. So let's do that again. Let's go back. Brush, sorry, color, fill object. There you go. And now it's black. You can really see the silhouette. So we actually managed to, capture the silhouette pretty darn close. I mean, that's quite close. You can tell there's a face. So that's pretty cool. Okay, let me just fill that again with white. All I did was go back and fill it with white in the fill object. Let me take this off. And let's go back into Z. There we are, we're already there. Okay, let's go back into the clay buildup. B, C, and if you want, you can even just select it, but it's BCB. And let's start filling in. Now I have an anatomical statue, as well as the reference images, of course, but right now I have just using my anatomical figure to look at these forms. Just see how the muscle flows, and I'm keeping in mind the bony landmarks. I'm keeping in mind how the muscle structure is. Just looking at my model carefully. And if you notice, I'm just going all around my model. You don't want to get stuck on one part of your model, because when you're modeling, when you're sculpting, or even drawing, or you got to go around. Let's read Dynamesh. You got to go around the whole model and work on it at the same time everywhere. You want to have the same kind of refinement all over. Okay, you don't want to just get stuck and maybe working on the cheeks, because what happens is, I'm going to do that. What happens is when you work on one part, the rest, the other proportions have to be adjusted. So it's a constant juggling act of having to go all across your model and really refine it at a consistent rate all over. That'll give you the best results, because if you adjust, let's say you adjust one eye, or you just the eyes, and then you notice, the nose is too long now, or the shoulders are not right. You kind of have to go all around at the same time to be able to get the proportions correct. Now ZBrush is very elastic in that sense, because it really allows you to make really good manipulations. For instance, if you find that the space between the eyes is too close together, you can go into the move brush, B, M, and V, and with a big draw size, you can adjust it, which is great for concepting. So already, just by spacing the eyes apart, I've made almost like an alien creature, with just that move. So it lets you experiment, which is very cool. Okay, I think I'm going to go into the Damien standard brush. So the DAM standard is B, D, and S, and I want to draw Let's start drawing a little bit. I usually do this even when I use real clay. I like to draw just to get an idea of where forms are. Now this is pretty low resolution. I'm probably going to have to raise it up a little. I think I'm probably at that point where I could probably raise it up a little. Clay B. Let's go into the clay buildup. And actually I want to finish here a little bit more. Now if you find you're having trouble with this shape because it's kind of truncated, it's been cut off, you can always extend it. You can always extend it and cut it off later. So all I did was Control and drag my mask, and then I'm going to keep Control pressed and click and invert the mask, and now press W, drag a transpose line and press Shift to snap it, pressing the inside, holding Shift down, inside circle, holding Shift down. I'm going to drag, and I've just basically extended the shape. Okay, Control and drag again, re-Dynamesh. Let me show you what happened there. So these are all stretched, right? So if I Control drag, Dynamesh updates it. And now it's a sculptable surface. So now it gives me a little bit more of an understanding because I have more room. So here I can sketch out, where the pecs are, and just carve it in a bit. I'm not trying to be perfect. Smooth. BTD for trim dynamic. And I'm just going to trim this down. Trim dynamic is great for creating these. It's almost like, for me, it's very similar to if you were shaving clay. That's what it feels like you're shaving, like you're slicing. See how it kind of looks like a knife slicing shavings off. It's great for trimming things, which makes its name extremely appropriate. A bigger draw size affects more of the sculpt. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I'm going to draw again, BDS for Damien Standard, and I'm just going to draw the pecs. And I usually like to draw like the muscles. Sometimes I'll just lightly do some muscle striations just to kind of get an understanding for myself about the muscle flow. That's kind of looking messy right now, but I'm going to go back to clay buildup, BCB, and recreate those striations. If you notice, I don't really use the smooth a lot. I kind of like having a little bit of texture when I'm sculpting. It kind of it gives me a better feel for, I don't know, it feels more organic. At least when I'm doing organic sculptures. Maybe when I'm doing a Mac or something like that, I probably smoothed a little bit more. But when I'm doing skin, or I kind of love this organic kind of look that you get from the clay brushes, especially the clay buildup and the clay tubes. The clay tubes I tend to use later on when I'm refining. Again, I don't like to smooth, so I like to use, I'm just going to go with the Alt here and take some down. Just using the clay buildup with the Alt. I like to use the clay tubes and refine because it's similar to the clay buildup, but it's a bit more subtle, especially because I turn the intensity down, and that way I can take away and add on, and I don't have to use smooth. Basically, like I've been doing now, with a light touch and the Alt, it's almost smoothing it, but it's not smoothing it perfectly. So you still have kind of these happy accidents. Now granted, this is at quite a low resolution still, so it's not quite, you're not going to get those really nice refined details that you would at higher resolutions, but when you get to higher resolutions, it really lends itself to organic material like skin. You know, skin is not perfect. You know, it's not perfectly smooth. So, in order to get away from that CG look, you know, I find it's pretty cool to have that kind of tool marks, I guess you could call them, like in traditional material. It kind of adds a life to the surface. Let me re-Dynamesh, control drag. If you notice, nice little update. It was like that before, some stretching here, and now with the Dynamesh, filled it all in and kind of made it nice and workable. Just continue. Now I want you, since I'm pretty new at making these videos, and I'd really like your input. You know, I don't know if you find this kind of tedious and boring, so you know, if you don't want to, if you'd rather see some real-time sculpting with the rest in time-lapse and my commentary on that, please let me know in the comments, or let me know anything, any kind of feedback you have, because I'd like to improve these videos. You know, I'd like to do everything in real time, but that might be really boring, I'm thinking. But I'm not sure, maybe that's what you guys want to see, so so yes, please let me know, and any questions you may have as well, you just leave them in the comments, and I'll definitely look at them. And if I can't address them in the actual comments box, I'll do a video about it, because maybe it's easier to explain visually than trying to type it out, you know, in a little comment. So, but please feel free to use the comments. I definitely will look at them. And I appreciate any kind of feedback you may have. Maybe the audio's still not great. Although I'm pretty sure I fixed that. Sounds pretty good from what I tested. So again, just going around forms. Let's see. You know what? I think we could probably... This part's probably a little forward. Just going into the move brush. Oops, big draw size. And let me just bring this back. I'm going to lower the draw size a little bit more. Just refining. Maybe I'll do a whole rib cage here just to kind of get... It's easier to do, even though we're not going to need the rib cage because it's cut off, I'm going to just put it in there just for me so that I make sure that the forms I'm creating are correct. So let me just clay buildup, sorry, BCB. And let's just create a very rough rib cage. Let's just create that form so that we know. I'm being very messy on purpose, which is what you should do at this stage anyway. Be loose. It's not about refinement. Like, this looks big to me in the back here, and then there's some cuts here. Cuts in the back, and I'm using reference. I'm looking at my reference while I'm doing this. This taper's a bit too much. I don't know if I need to go this far down. Let's see. Let's kind of bring the pecs up a little. Let's see what else. There's a latimus dorsi right here, and your gluteus, your three gluteus muscles are down here, all the way down here. Let me re-Dynamesh. If you notice, look at all the stretching that's happening. Boom. And that's pretty phenomenal. You gotta love ZBrush, man. Honestly, it's my favorite program to work in. I just could work in this program all day. It's just so much fun. Okay, I'm not gonna go too far. I know I'm having fun here, but let's just add some pecs here. Sorry, pecs. Let's add some abs. Alright. Okay. I could probably use a bit more. I'm just being loose. I'm just getting a rough shape far out. So I'm going to bring them back a little bit and just press S so I can do this a little quicker. I think the scale of the figure is pretty big, that's why my brush size isn't going as far as it could. Let's do that. That looks pretty good. This pectoral muscle over here seems way... Whoops, just let it save. Seems a little high. I could actually use the trim dynamic. That's B and T with D. BTD. Brush, trim, dynamic. In most cases, the brushes are actually the first letters of the brush. Not in all. Like the move brush is the B, M for move, and then V, because there's a couple of different move brushes. A couple of trim brushes as well. There's the trim adaptive and trim dynamic. I only really use the trim dynamic. I rarely use the trim adaptive. Let's go into the Damien standard, B, D, S, and let's just draw with some more stuff here. Whoops, not in the center. Okay, here we go. And let me just look at my model. Okay, so I'm using light pressure in this part, and as I get towards this area, I'm pressing harder. And actually, I can even enlarge my draw size. That way it affects it more, and it's really pushing it in, because if you look at your pecs, they actually insert under there. It's a little bit too much. Let me undo that. That's a little too much. So you always have to turn around and make sure you're looking from different angles, because sometimes it looks okay. The reason I'm using more pressure is because the pec muscles actually insert. This would be your shoulder joint up here. If you could see the skeleton, your shoulder joint would be right here. Your clavicle comes on top. Let's just go to the clay build-up here. Your clavicle comes up here. This is a little thick, but it's right here. And this is... Here, let me do this. Let me drag it out. And just press W. You can see how quick you can just pull out forms. It's phenomenal. Okay. So look at all that stretching. Ta-da! Pretty cool. Okay, so this is where your skeleton, your bones are. This is your oh my goodness, the name's not coming to me. Oh, this is your arm bone. I have a blank. My apologies. Okay. Let's do this. Let's go into mask lasso, and I'm just gonna lasso that, invert, and let's use the move brush. Just bring it back a little bit. It's probably a little too far back, but you're usually that's about there. Let's rotate it a bit. And Dynamesh. Okay, so this is where your shoulder is, right? So your pec muscles actually insert onto here, and then you have your biceps brachii right here. That's where your biceps are. So to illustrate, actually let me do this. This is kind of a neat trick actually. Okay, I'm going to fill with material. Okay, so I have the M pressed. And now I'm going to change material. So if you notice, nothing has changed. But now, when I go to brush, that's right. If I press material again, if I go to brush, it actually draws on material. So now, kind of looks like you're drawing muscles. So there you go. So now I'm just going to show you. So here, let's read Dynamesh. Whoops. Let's do that. Nope. That's not read Dynamesh. Oh, I could have sworn you could keep the material. There's probably a setting I'm forgetting. It doesn't matter. I won't need to read Dynamesh. I just want to show you this. I want to go back to the other material later anyway, because I find that the red wax looks pretty cool, but I really can't see what I'm doing with it. Or let's put it this way: I prefer using the gray. So this kind of really illustrates how the muscles look underneath. And let's just add some more of these biceps. So if you're wondering why it looks kind of funny, I just wanted to illustrate the fact that these go over here. That's your pec muscles. Insert right here. In this part here. Yeah. Actually, let's turn up resolution a bit. All I did was press Control D, even though we're still in Dynamesh. But if I Dynamesh, it's gonna change back the material. So I just decided to raise it up a little bit, just to show. So the reason this looks funny here is because we actually have, let me show you. There's the deltoids. There's 3 deltoids that come on top of here. And let me show you. Let's do it like this. Let's append a sphere. Okay, and just Alt click. I'm going to take off X and move, so W. Oops, sorry, take off X. And now E to scale. Okay, let's just see where we're at on the side. And W, move. Now if you click on it and press Alt, you can actually move it around freely, which is a pretty cool trick, which I didn't know before. Okay, so let's use the move tool. It's probably still a little big. I just want to squish this down, just to give you an idea. And actually this we could Dynamesh. Okay, so if you wanted to, you could actually build a model in this way. Like, you don't have to do it all on one subtool, on one tool rather. And you could actually, for more complex things like mechs and things like that, or if you have clothing, usually they're in different subtools. I usually sculpt the whole body in one subtool except for the eyes, maybe the mouth bag and the teeth. But let's just keep it normal, just the regular default 13,000 polys. Let's go into clay buildup BCB and just start. And just start kind of making these shapes. And let me just go Alt just to bring it down a bit. So actually this part goes under the clavicle. Oop, that looks weird. Let me re-Dynamesh. And just like that. Okay. So that's kind of what the shoulder looks like. And it goes back here. I haven't really touched the back, so it's going to look kind of funny. bring it down a bit. Okay, so if you want to have it on the other side, you can go in Z plugin Subtool Master, and where is it? Subtool Master. You could do mirror. I'm going to do it a different way. I'm just going to use the modify topology because it only has one subdivision level, and mirror and weld. If you have more than one subdivision level, you'd have to either erase the subdivisions or use the Subtool Master. So Alt and click on my other tool, and automatically it'll go to the previous tool. So if I want the shoulders, I can Alt click. You notice they were a little darker. Alt click. I'm just going to go back to the other one, and let's just continue this. And let's see. It's going to be really stretched now. Let's not forget the triceps are back here. So, yeah, looks hilarious. Okay, that's a little big. That's why you have to always go around your model. Just trim dynamic. Now, I should be dynameshing, but the only reason I'm not is because I don't want the model to go back to the other material. I don't want it to turn all the red wax like it did before, because I want to show you, I want to keep these landmarks and things like that. So let's see here. I mean, I could paint them, but okay. So that's just clay build up again. That's kind of, let's go back to the other subtool here. So long story short is your muscles intersect with one another. They overlap, they go in. Just the move tool. And you know, getting to know that structure is going to help you create believable characters, because it's really all in what lies underneath. Now, if you find that you're affecting other areas of the model, you can press the B brush menu, move, and T for move topological. And the move topological will actually only move. See, it's not affecting there anymore. Sometimes it will anyway, but it's pretty good actually. It won't affect areas that have different topology. So because this topology is different from this one, or in another area. Sorry if that's maybe not the correct way of explaining it, but the point, basically, if you touch on this area, it won't affect this area. That's what I'm trying to say. Unless you're really close. Sometimes it's still sometimes it still does it, but it's better than the other one, the regular move. And just trim dynamic here. Okay. So yeah, just a Damien standard. So you can see I can't really sculpt on this anymore because it's all kind of messed up because the polygons are stretched, and I should re-Dynamesh. But I just want to show you the striations and okay. So that looks kind of funny. I mean, it's fairly close, but it's not quite there. I just wanted to show you how we have the shoulder muscle over here, and these shapes are not quite correct yet. They're close, but they're not really the actual shapes that they're supposed to be. This does require a lot more refinement, but to illustrate, you know, the shoulder, let's just go on that, overlaps. Oops. Overlaps with the pec and the biceps. Let's move this out of the way. Where the biceps and the pectoralis muscles intersect. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. And but that's why I was putting more pressure. If you look underneath, there's this arc. Get out of transpose. There's this arc here. or arch, rather. And yeah, this is a little too skinny now. But that's the thing, you gotta... Oh, wrong one. See, now if you noticed, I put these on, and now this all looks too skinny and it looks out of whack. So that's why now the head looks too small. These pecs look too big. Anyway, just using the move tool. Let's move these in a little bit. Anyway, it doesn't really matter because this all gets cut off, and we're not really worrying about that right now. Now the head looks a little small, which you could use to your advantage if you're creating, you know, kind of like a thug character or a bruiser or something that's supposed to look menacing. You can make the head a little smaller. Usually I like to use a rule of 8 heads tall, which is, this is a little small, but not by much. If I wanted to make it bigger, it's pretty simple. Just going, I'm in the mask lasso, and I can select it, tap to invert. So I had the control pressed, so it goes into my mask, and then I tap, and it inverts. And now actually I could just go press E and just scale it just a little bit. So it will move it a little bit out of where it was, so you gotta adjust. And when you mask something, it only affects the area that you masked. So if you see from before how small it was, and now it seems like a better size. And that's kind of the process of going of modeling, is that you change one thing and you have to change everything else. Let's just save this. So I think for this video I'm going to stop here because it's getting pretty long. I managed to make it 40 minutes again. But I would like to know from you guys, you know, if there's anything different you'd like to see, if the videos are too long, if you'd like smaller segments, if you'd like to see more time-lapse because this part's kind of boring, maybe a little bit of both. Or if you have any questions, you know, please leave a comment in the comment box below. And also, don't forget to subscribe. I do put up content every week. And if you like the information, please like my video. And I hope you guys got something out of it. And I will see you in the next video.